who is in attendance, either telephonically or remotely, and that way we will then call the meeting to order once we determine who is doing that. Mr. Latimer, you're prepared to take notes, minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you would, please. All right, Alderman Carver.
Present.
Alderman Sistrunk.
Here.
Alderman Little. I'm under the understanding that Alderman Little will not be joining us, so just validating by calling his name. Alderman Walker.
Here.
Alderman Beatty.
Here.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Here.
And Alderman Vaughn.
Here.
Okay, we have 6 in attendance, either telephonically or by video. So we will call this meeting to order. This is the special call meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Saturday, it is May the 9th at 11 a.m. And everyone has been noticed in accordance with the provisions of Section 21.321. And we are currently on the second floor of our City Hall. And the public, we have some press in attendance. The specific subject of the meeting is the City of Starkville response to pandemic of COVID-19. And the reason for the meeting being special called is because the governor yesterday issued a second, I don't know how many orders, order number 1480, which modified yet again his orders from 1478 and included in the businesses that could open gyms and hair salons, barbershops, I say salons because the language was salons. So with that, one would presume nail salons as well as hair salons and barbershops. And so with those things being changed and with his order being very specific to how those different businesses should be open, and the fact that our order expired prior to or at the same time, 8 o'clock on Monday, we needed to meet before our order expired. So that all sounds clear as mud. But anyway, that was the goal, is to make sure that we meet and have ours in place at a time that is in conjunction with the governor's order. So with that, we have drafted a new resolution, tweaking the one we had before. And what I will do is read it. I'm not going to read the whereases, but I'm going to read the now therefores, and then we will. I'll make some comments, and then we'll go around to each ward and allow the aldermen to speak to these issues as they so desire. All right, now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and the board of aldermen of the city of Starkville, the city hereby adopts the following emergency measures that shall take effect immediately and remain in effect until rescinded by the governmental authority of the city of Starkville, unless a different effective date and date for continuing effectiveness is stated in such measure. To protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community from the spread of a contagious or infectious disease, and to eliminate or limit injuries or deaths that may occur in the absence of such measures. Section 1. The City of Starkville hereby adopts the findings and regulations set forth in Executive Order 1480 as signed by Governor Tate Reeves on May 8, 2020. The city fully adopts the broad intent of that order, including the reopening with restrictions of salons, barbershops, personal care and personal grooming facilities, and fitness and exercise gyms. Section 2, consistent with Executive Order 1478, Section I-B, the City of Starkville's park shall open to the public at 8 a.m. on May the 14th, 2020. Daily hours of operation shall be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Participants shall maintain a minimum of 6-foot distance between individuals and limit group gatherings, activities to a maximum of 10 individuals for any indoor space open to the public and a maximum of 20 individuals outdoors. Participants are also encouraged to follow the guidelines for visiting parks and recreational facilities promulgated by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention relating to coronavirus disease COVID-19. The City of Starkville swimming pool and the Travis Outlaw Center shall remain closed to the public until further action of the Board of Aldermen. Section 3. All businesses, agencies, and units of government located within the City of Starkville shall continue to take all reasonable measures to ensure that such businesses comply with the CDC and the Mississippi Department of Health recommendations and guidance, and shall implement appropriate safeguards to prevent the spread of infectious disease, including but not limited to mandating social distancing, sending home sick employees, and actively encouraging sick employees to stay home, separating and sending home employees who appear to have respiratory illness symptoms, emphasizing work from home policies where possible, mandating respiratory etiquette and proper hand hygiene, and maintaining clean and sanitary workplaces, cautioning employees regarding travel and taking all such additional measures to prohibit and/or reduce the spread of infectious disease and especially COVID-19. Section 4. While still being strongly encouraged to do so, it shall no longer be required that businesses open to the public compel their employees or customers to wear face coverings. Provided, however, face coverings shall still be required for the employees of restaurants and bars providing in-house dining pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order number 1478, I sub A sub 6, for employees and customers of salons, barbershops, personal care, and grooming facilities pursuant to Executive Order number 1480, I sub A sub 6, 7, and 9, and for employees of fitness and exercise gyms pursuant to Executive Order number 1480, I sub B sub 8. Section 5, general curfew remains in effect in the city limits of Starkville from 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. except for any travel or activities allowed by the governor's executive orders related to COVID-19. This curfew runs through 5 a.m. on May the 19th, 2020. Time period will allow for coordinated effort between Starkville, Ocoboco County, and other communities in the Golden Triangle to wind down the curfew periods. Section 6, the city may issue such other orders as are necessary for the protection of life and liberty. Section 7, the penalties for violation of this adopted resolution shall be the same as those listed in the ordinance amending Chapter 1, Code of Ordinances of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, General Provisions, which the City of Starkville adopted on or about March the 20th, 2020. Then the remainder is who made the motion for the adoption of the resolution, what motion was seconded, et cetera, so with the vote count. So that's the language in the resolution that is differing than the resolution that we passed, resolution number 5, excuse me. So that sort of is where we are and what we're looking at doing. The reason for the change from the masking requirements, which I have already begun to hear from folks about it, is, to me, once we took masks away from the restaurants, and masks make absolutely no sense for gymnasiums. If you're going to work out, having a mask and trying to work out is extremely difficult. So once we were picking and choosing, it not suddenly, but it became apparent to me that it was picking and choosing, which makes it somewhat arbitrary in how we do this. So I felt like now was the time. I had actually thought we would wait until the 18th and then remove the masks. But with the gyms being added to the governor's order, I felt like now was an appropriate time so that we aren't finding ourselves appearing to be capricious in how we choose who does and does not wear a mask. So with that being said, that puts us in a position of strongly recommending them, which we did do, which is still the case, I think, nationwide. Whether you agree that they should be mandated is a whole other issue. But from my perspective, I think we have opportunities to put this consideration on businesses and employers and say to them, maybe you want to have mask only times in your stores, or public individuals get to choose. They go at odd times. They go times when people aren't, there are not a lot of people in there, the lesser trafficked times. They do curbside pickup from grocery stores and the places that are normally quite necessary. And they also continue to wear masks, which I certainly shall do. But I wanted to have that reference as to why I thought that it was time for the mask to be eliminated. And further on the curfew, I have the chief here because I did have the chief here. Now I have Jack here. I have the chief here because one of the things that we had done is, I know the counties extended their curfew until the 18th. And I did not want us to not coordinate with them, because the initial reason to do it in the first place was so that we didn't become the social outlet for Lowndes and Clay and West Point and Columbus as they were coming into town, and nor do I want to put them in a position of not knowing what we're doing and why we're doing it.
That was one of my questions, is what are the other cities, have they extended theirs to the 18th as well?
Well, Chief, have you had a chance to talk to the other cities at this point? I tried to, go ahead, I'll let you.
I spoke with Chief Shelton this morning. He confirmed that the city council there is meeting at 1, but he fully expects an extension up until about approximately 2 weeks out for the curfew. And we both agree that I think the key word, whether coordinating with the governor or coordinating with other jurisdictions, coordination is the key. And we don't want our people, overlooking their systems or vice versa. So to answer your question, though, on Carver, they are looking at an extension now for 2 weeks.
Okay. And I talked with Mayor Robinson in West Point, and they have one as well. And not only that, but they're going to be implementing masks starting Monday. So they are a little behind the curve on that one in that sense. But so everybody is trying to be somewhat similar in what we're doing. But the curfew in particular, that's the reason for the extension of the curfew, because Chris pointed out, and Chris, if you'd like to weigh in, you're welcome to, that, as we open the state and open the city up, the need for a curfew becomes a little more hard to sustain. Do you want to speak to that, Chris?
I'd be happy to, Mayor. Board, the mayor and I talked about this a lot over the last 2 days because I think it can be defended and argued both ways. In fact, the curfew could go away today. And the theory behind that would be that if there's no longer anything called non-essential versus essential travel or non-essential versus essential activities, and if in general all businesses are now open except those restrictions that are put on salons and on gyms, then the argument is, well, what are we restricting movement for with the curfew? But the mayor had strong feelings, and I know the chief does too, that we need a coordinated effort within the Golden Triangle to not put a pressure point on any one given community. And so you'll notice the language of the curfew in this section is different than our other resolutions. This has a real clear ending date of May 19th. So we're signaling that this is going to end then. It's just given us 10 days to wind this down in an appropriate manner.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, that is pretty much all I have to say. So Alderman Carver, we'll start with you if you have things you'd like to comment on about this.
Well, yeah, I would say backing up just a couple of days, and it is a fluid movement. Like I say, West Point may be behind the curve. I think we were behind the curve. If you're going to require masks, we probably should have done that 6 or 7 weeks ago, before a bell curve. Anytime pandemic, that's a time to prepare, not what they would say is after a curve. What you're fixing to enter into, and we are in now, is an age of personal choice and personal responsibility. You'll see me, I'm not real concerned about it, but my age may be the biggest factor. You know your health, you know your age. It's an age variant strain. You can tell people they don't have to wear masks. There's going to be a lot of people wearing masks. You can tell people they have to wear masks, and I agree with it. It is an age of personal responsibility and an age of personal choice. If I get in a situation where I think I'm going to wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask. It's personal choice. It's called freedom. It's what our country's founded on. My only question was, could we not, as much as I like to say y'all Mother's Day weekend on Saturday morning, could we not sign some type of resolution that just says we adhere to what the governor says, instead of having to have these special call every time there's an executive order or any kind of, could we not sign something we're just going to adhere to whatever the state top health officials say we must do? And just be fluid with that as a uniform, and that may bring some uniformity to us as a region, that everybody just adheres to that. And then except for curfew, I think maybe the only thing on this that would be, but if the governor says nail salons should open, can we just say that we're going to accept whatever the health officials suggest and us not have to call this meeting order?
Well, Chris, what you got written there right now is pretty much in line with what he has done, and he has extended this order till the 25th, I believe, hadn't he? And doesn't 1480 go till the 25th? It was 2 weeks.
It does.
So we will be meeting before then.
You have to do it every time.
Yeah, I don't want to do it either, trust me. So yeah, I'm happy to do that, but I'm hoping perhaps we will, this can be in place. And if we want to do something on the 19th when we meet, then we can add language to it to that extent. Chris, does that sound reasonable?
It does.
In terms of how we structure the language?
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
It gives us a chance to revisit this on the 19th.
Okay. And then Thursday on the parks open, it was just because of time issue. They couldn't get everything ready for Monday.
Yes.
Are the basketball courts going to be open?
Yes, we got to put the nets back up, and that apparently takes like a day and a half.
I saw that. Yeah, I think this is great news. I do. I will argue to someone. I will always argue that going in and getting their hair cut and a nail salon with 2 or 3 people sitting spaced out, much like we're sitting here this morning, is less infectious than the grocery store. And I will always argue that. I've thought that especially our hair salons and nail salons and personal grooming facilities in this town are a vital business, and that's something that everybody has agreed upon. I personally think so. Didn't realize that maybe until this started, and
I knew it all along.
Yeah, especially the ladies. I've heard a lot of comments. I've heard a lot of things that it's interesting times, but as you see this roll out over the next few months, we may have spikes, may have peaks and waves. The pandemic doesn't necessarily look like a bell curve where it's a one-time over. It could be more of a wave cycle. I have a lot of friends that are of all different age variants, and old, especially, I'm in front of a lot of different people on any given day, and I tell the people if they're 65, 70, or 80 years old, they may want to stay in for some time. And so that's an age of personal responsibility and an age of personal choice. And that's what it's going to come to. I don't think that this thing's over. I found an interesting comment by Dr. Cameron Huckford, ICU director, that said it doesn't matter if we take the masks off on May 7th or May 11th, that this virus could be here for a projected of upwards of 2 years. And I think that's a reality we're going to have to live with. So interesting times. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman Carter. Alderman Sistrunk.
I'd like to speak to that idea that we were behind the curve in asking people to wear masks. We didn't do it when the governor issued his shelter at home place, but when people are sheltering at home, they're not out and about. And so the idea of a mask was maybe not as critical then as when the governor shifted to his safer at home program, at which point wearing a mask became more important. So I don't think we were behind the curve. I think we were trying to be cautious, not overreach what we were doing, but reacting in real time to what was being imposed by the governor. I agree. Coming back to each time the governor issues an executive order it's a little tedious, but with our Google meetings, it's really not that hard to throw together a meeting, and if all we're doing is having a little discussion, it doesn't take that much time out of anybody's day. The governor could help us out by issuing these executive orders in conjunction with board meetings, because across the state we meet consistently. So he could help us out. I would like to say too that I cannot encourage strongly enough, not just our residents, but also our businesses to take a look at this idea of mask and personal choice and that sort of thing. We're about to switch this conversation really seriously from a public health issue to an economic issue. I have heard from people that I haven't talked to in forever, and lots of people who say they are not comfortable yet going out. Just because the business's door is open does not mean that they are comfortable going into the business. And I believe that the businesses that are going to do best are the ones that are going to be creative and flexible in how they respond to their customers' needs. I don't have a solution for them. That is a business issue, but it becomes an economic issue that we can't control at this point in time. I would, again, I can't encourage people enough to wear masks. And Ben, Alderman Carver, while you're a young person who's immune to all of this, and I'm an older person with some underlying issues, you're not wearing that mask to protect you. You're wearing that mask to protect me. And I would appreciate it if you would do a bit to try to protect me and Alderman Vaughn and Alderman Beatty, anybody else who's here who's in our town who's older. Mr. Forbes, the mayor.
Don't you dare point at me.
You get to be an older person too. But the mask is really more, it says more about your thoughts toward your contribution to our community's public health than it does to your idea that it is somehow keeping you safe as you go out and about in the community. I would like to stress too that when it comes to reopening the parks, we're putting the police department in a pretty precarious position in saying that parks are open. You can have groups of up to 20. You need to socially distance at least 6 feet. And I don't know who besides Steph Curry is going to want to play basketball where everybody's 6 feet apart. So, or soccer, practice soccer, or play baseball. It becomes a real challenge. And for the people who are there practicing soccer or playing baseball, you've not just got the teams. Most of those people who are there don't have driver's licenses yet. So you've got parents there. It becomes really difficult to have to meet the parameters that the governor has set out. It's a tough time, and I think if we can be patient with one another, if we can be considerate of one another, we'll get through this, and hopefully with as little impact to our community as possible.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Alderman Little is not with us. Alderman Walker?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to be brief. In regards to the parks, I'm all on board with the parks moving forward to being open. I would encourage the board and the mayor and Mr. DeQuilla to look at to take a relook at the park people that we have furloughed to get them back to 40 hours, and to also look at the other park employees that have been furloughed to see if we're going to open up the parks, minus the pool and the Travis Outlaw Center. I think we're going to need more people there, and we need to look at a plan to put them back in place and to make sure that we can find the financial cuts in other places if that is deemed necessary. Having said that, without getting into a history lesson, I understand people's wanting to hold on to the ideal that individual rights and individual freedom allows you to do anything and everything that you want in this country. The fact of the matter is that's just not the reality and the principle of what it is. I suspect that many of these people that believe that also would be very willing to limit certain people's choices to do other things. And so I think that is, while I understand and respect people's attitude for that, my dad's a military person. He's fought for this country's freedom, for people to be able to do. But at the same time, this is a public health crisis. It's not like you're taking away somebody's individual rights to do something permanently. So I think that's a little disingenuous. If we're going to be a team, you have to be a team. I would strongly recommend that everybody continue to wear masks for the foreseeable future, despite what a few local people might have to say. And if you think for 1 minute that's what's coming out in the governor's executive order is being driven by the top health officials in the state, I'm not sure why anybody would believe that, or what you would believe for anything that's coming out of the national press when you look at we're clearly not adhering to the CDC guidelines because we're all interested in making sure we make a dollar. I understand that. I'm ready for salons to open. I'm ready for people to get back to work too. But to call that and say it's because our country is based on individual rights and we can do whatever we want, that's just well, it's either don't know any better or it's just a fabrication. Mayor, with that, I'll yield.
All right, thank you, Alderman Walker. And Mr. DeQuilla and I have had conversations, and I'm happy to discuss it further. But I think I said all along and have continued to say that the majority of our cuts, the success of our cuts came from parks, and that's because if it's police or fire, then parks is going to be the one where we are going to find those cuts. But we will certainly look again and see if there are other opportunities. We will bring those other, not furloughed, but 32-hour folks back, and we'll make that effective at the next pay period when we will do that on the 19th, or I will bring that forward. Obviously, I won't do it without the board, but I'll bring it forward on the 19th, and we can do that. But I hold out no hopes at this point of us being able to do much more than we're doing now for the next month or so, although we are exploring opportunities for some sort of I don't know, local kind of pickup games and that sort of thing. And we'll work and try to get something along those lines as time goes on. So thank you, sir. Alderman Beatty.
Yes. Mayor, I'm taking a deep breath so I can let my heart rate go down a little bit so that I can collect myself and make some statements I want to make. Having a fast heart rate was okay when I was playing junior college football. It's probably not right now. But some statements have been made, and I want to at least state the opposites, the opposing side of some of the views that have been said this morning. First of all, I would suggest that we strike Section 4 of this resolution in favor of and insert the requirements that all essential businesses still maintain employer and the customer as well as employee face covering requirement. And because people, these are essential non-essential business which would encompassing, it would cover the hair salons and the gymnasiums and places like that. You know, you make a choice to go in those places to patronize those businesses, fine. Go in at your own risk. Don't wear a face covering at your own risk, that kind of thing. But for essential businesses, we have older, and somebody mentioned it a while ago, people over 65 years old that need to be careful. You know, There are people who can't be careful. They still got to go to the grocery store. In other words, older, more vulnerable folks have no recourse on certain types of things they have to shop for. They still got to go to the grocery store. They're still going to go to Walmart and Dollar General. They still going to have to, buy gasoline, convenience stores, things like that. So, corn up laundries, people don't have washing machines, things like that. So they're going to be people that are going to have to get out. They're not necessarily choosing to get out. It's just something we all have to buy food, that kind of thing. No one has, I think, and I'll reiterate what Alderman Walker said, no one has the freedom or the right to not wear a mask in a store and infect somebody else. We wear these masks so we won't blow our breath on somebody else or sneeze or cough and infect somebody else. And when everybody's wearing a mask, employees, customers, we all wearing a mask, I think we feel more comfortable in stores. It makes me more apt to want to shop in a store if that's the case. Now who becomes expendable? Older folks, because they have to get out and shop. I'm 65 years old, I think we should still put or have the requirement or strike this out and have the requirement in this resolution where the places where people have to go for essential things, goods and services to maintain their life, that we require people to put on a mask when they go in the store, and employees have the mask on, and when they come out, they take the mask off. And if you choose to go to gymnasium, you choose to go to hair salon, somewhere like that, I guess it could be argued hair salons are not, that they're an essential thing. But places where it's non-essential, we choose to go to utilize that business, buy something or have that, utilize that service or something. Okay, no mask, that kind of thing. But for older people, and we got a good many in our community, they're gonna go in a Walmart store and Kroger. I'm not picking on any particular store. I'm just saying big stores where you shop, Walmart, Neighborhood Market, Biles, places like that, where they're gonna be shopping and going past folks on an aisle now that don't have masks on. And so, in a sense, we're kind of defeating the purpose in places where we all have to congregate because it's a necessity for half folks in the store, or maybe over half now, not be wearing masks, and the other folks be wearing masks. And when I put this mask on, remember, it doesn't protect me from you; it protects you from me. And when we all have it on, that we all kind of cancel each other out. That neutralizes that, or at least it increases the possibility that virus won't get spread through somebody sneezing or coughing or something like that. When half the folks don't have it on, that increases that chance. But anybody know statistics? There are over 9,000 cases. Yesterday in Mississippi, we saw over 400 new cases of this stuff. This curve thing they keep talking about has not peaked and started over and started down. They just hadn't happened yet.
I can give you the new cases for today.
What? Tell me.
288 in Mississippi and 86 Octaville County.
You got total say what?
New in Octaville County. That's total in Octaville County.
But we had a 400 day back a couple of days, day or so back.
330 day, and then we.
But it's certainly we've not flattened out or started to go down. This is still an epidemic, and it's going to be with us for a while. And somebody putting on a face covering to go in a store to buy groceries and taking it off and that's not impeding or impending, or that's not, violating your constitutional rights or your personal freedom or anything like that. That's just a safety thing. It's also saying, I care about you. I care about the other people, the employees in that store and the other people in that store. And I guess to that extent, if that's an infringement on our freedom, something like that, for a while until we kind of get a handle on this stuff, I think that's something we ought to do. But anyway, Mayor, I'll yield this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Latimer, I'm going to pull you into this because you and I have also had the discussion about there are no longer what's considered essential businesses. So if we start calling them out as essential businesses, that's on us. Is that an adequate description?
That's right. I just checked one of the executive orders that the governor did, and it was 1477. And it really does away with the distinction between essential versus non-essential businesses and let all of the businesses open or reopen, except at that time back on 1477 time, except salons and gyms. And now they brought in salons and gyms. And so drawing a line between essential and non-essential businesses may not be supportable now because those previous orders that the governor has entered have either expired or have been superseded by his later orders.
Okay, so we would be in the position of calling out what we consider to be essential businesses now. Is that an accurate statement?
That's right. It would be all on us, and we would be making those case by case determinations, which, could put us out there a little bit on that.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
Council,
Yes, sir.
once there's been a determination of what's considered to be by people and authority that's supposed to be in the know about something, what is deemed to be or considered to be essential versus non-essential, isn't that cat's out of the bag, isn't it? I mean, hadn't that been determined at that point in time, and you can't just go back and undetermine that?
So the way to answer that question, Alderman Beatty, and I think that's a great question, essential businesses have been defined in two ways. One, they've been defined in that CISA memo from the Cybersecurity Foundation that the governor adopted. And that's a long and detailed list about all these businesses that can qualify as essential businesses. The other thing the governor has done is define on his own what are essential businesses. But in his definition, that order has a set time period on it. And those orders have expired. And so arguably that definition of what was essential and what was non-essential, while still, I understand arguable conceptually, is no longer binding legally. So I think we would be making a separate determination at this point in time based on what was already previously done.
One other comment. I have talked to grocery store people and the people that run the general retail stores, we used to call it dry goods, and the hardware stores, essential business. They are doing land office. They're doing, some of them doing record sales. It's because in a lot of cases, people that ate restaurants are buying food and carrying it home. So those sales are transferring over to supermarkets versus being, purchased as a prepared, value-added thing in a restaurant or something. But people are not going to not go in grocery stores and Walmart and Dollar General because they have a face covering requirement. It's just getting down to whether we find this thing that infringing on someone's personal freedom or their rights. If we require as a city someone to put on a face mask in a place that's got a commodity or product or something they got to buy that's absolutely essential to those people. In other words, they have to be in that store. They didn't choose to be in the store. They have to be in the store. And I just think that we're, as a city, we probably need to seriously consider keeping that in place for places where people have to shop. I yield.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yes, ma'am, Mayor. Very briefly, just a couple of things I want to say, Mayor. With regard to this health crisis, I think that we, as a governing body, have done a very good job in enacting these reasonable health measures as set forth in all of the resolutions. And finally, Mayor, I like to say that the language in the curfew section sets forth a very good rational basis for the extension of the curfew. So I think that the attorney has done a great job putting forth, and certainly been some very good comments made this morning. And we are having to do this just to further promote the health and safety and welfare of our community. I yield, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Alderman Vaughn.
Yeah, man, I got a couple of comments. Go back to the public. When we wear these masks, we showing the public that we showing those frontline heroes that we are concerned about them, we care about them when we go in and we got masks on. We're trying to protect you. And because most of the time who are dying, we see who are dying. A lot of our frontline heroes are the ones who are dying. And most of them dying from the citizen who going in without any kind of protection and protecting them. And elected officials, we're here for the safety and the health and the welfare of all the citizens in Starkville, not just the frontline runner, not just the citizens that don't want to put on a mask. I mean, that's what we supposed to be. We supposed to be here for their protection. We're supposed to be here to make good and wise and sound decisions for everybody, not just a few people. That's what we're supposed to do. And second, Mayor, how long will the travel outlaw center be closed?
I don't know. it's an indoor facility. Right now, it could only hold 10 anyway. And we are, again, it is back to how are we going to cover the costs of things like police and fire, the things that are our absolute critical responsibility. So that is looking toward how we're going to go forward in the future. So at this point in time, I don't know.
And thirdly, I agree with the police chief. You know, we don't want to take the curfew away and then Columbus still got a curfew. Clay still got a curfew. Only thing they'll do, if we take the curfew away, all they would do is flood Starkville. You know, we don't want that.
Okay.
I agree with him leaving the curfew there till the time that the governor order desires. I agree with that.
Okay. All right. Anyone on the car? We'll start back around the circle.
Yeah, first of all, backtrack and say I respect each and every person on this board because I know this is a time we've never gone through before and nothing's ever personal. I've always said when we go to conferences, people say, why are y'all so successful in Starkville? I said, because we can agree to disagree. And outside this table, I think everybody genuinely cares about each and every other person. Some of the comments I get sitting here, they're coming in. This is my personal observation. Nobody sent me this, but people walking in a store, if you're going to talk about masks, there's not a hospital in the world that you can wear a mask one time and put it on the next day. I've seen people wearing masks for days and days on end and cloth masks hanging from a rearview mirror. And as far as effectiveness, I'm not going to ever think. So I sat at Val this morning, watched 8 or 9 people pull a t-shirt up because they didn't have a mask. And come on, let's be real. That's not effective at all. It's not a hospital. All the medical professionals I talk to, family members and other individuals that, gloves aren't meant to be worn twice, and neither are masks. And probably everybody in here has worn a mask twice. So the effectiveness of that, I see people cutting sleeves off of t-shirts. I see all sorts of homemade medical. They started off saying N95 were required, and over the weeks, I don't think there's a supply. We can get enough masks for people in this community and the country. So I don't know how effective they are. 2, I'm all about it as it's written here. Probably the biggest complaint I get from individuals is, who are y'all referencing on the medical field? Sometimes at the table things are altered and changed. You get into essential versus non-essential, the timeline of what's been released from the governor and whether or not that's, off the table and binding, and city attorney can talk more to that. But I'm going to support this today as it's written now because, it does open up salons and personal grooming facilities. And then secondly, again and again and again, I'll say it's going to be personal choice and responsibility. If I go to a situation where I think I need to wear a mask, I'll wear one. It's probably a grocery store situation, like you're talking about, Alderman Beatty, a hair salon where you go in there and there's 3 people in a hair salon versus, I think Walmart right now is saying they can allow up to 1,029 people or 1,061. That's a drastic difference. And then the only other question that just came in from somebody in town with a 10, as far as nail salons and hair salons, is it like Walmart and Kroger where they've got a person per so many square feet, or is the 10?
It's a 1 person per employee, and they still got to have distance spacing.
So let's say
a 10 chair salon, you can have an employee who's doing 10 haircuts around the room, but they've still got to have that spacing. So, and I've never
explain
seen
it to me. If there's 10 booths in there, each one of those people can have a person at each booth getting a haircut.
As long as they're spaced out, yes.
So it could be 20 people indoors. As long as that's a couple of questions have come in.
Yes, as long as spacing being the critical factor to that, 1 person, 1 employee, 1 haircut person, 1 client, 1 customer, one.
So I don't know.
Haircut.
I don't know really all the salons in town, but I think they want to make sure they're complying by the law. And so for the record, you can have 1. And what about people waiting?
They have to wait outside. No waiting in the waiting area. You have to be in your car or wherever and take a call from them, and
Sounds
so
good.
they can then go in.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Alderman Sistrunk, anything further?
I think not. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Alderman Walker, anything further?
No.
All right, thank you. Alderman Beatty, anything further?
I just want to reiterate something that Alderman Walker talked about. I said that probably not all of the motive. I suspect that the motive for opening back up this has been pressure. And look, I have a business. I feel the pressure and understand people want to get back open. These businesses let's get back to as normal, circumstances we possibly can. And people that have money invested in businesses and have jobs and things. That's all real important. I think part of this thing though is we're opening business back up as the state has, and being responsible, feeling like as they can, and doing it incrementally. But we're rolling the dice on some of this stuff. We just don't know to what extent this stuff's going to the spread of this virus will increase if we go back into Walmart stores and back into Kroger's and places. All the customers with a face mask off, and some people are going to voluntarily put a mask on. Alderman Carver just mentioned that. They're going to be half people there that's going to choose, probably because of age, whatever their status of health is or something, maybe not to do that. And the folks that walk in there with that mask, they put somebody else at risk. This, to ask people to wear a mask in an essential business, like one of our big stores we shop in, we all have to shop in, grocery store, whatever kind of thing, is not infringing on personal rights, and it doesn't hurt anybody. These things are not painful. And they're not particularly stylish, but they're not painful. And when we walk out of the store, we could take them off and hang them by one ear, and that can be a new style thing or something, But if the city doesn't keep this requirement on their people, half our population don't choose not to go in those stores without masks on. And then that puts the other half, and that puts employees and people at risk. And that's just, to me, an undue risk. And I know this may invite, legal stuff, that kind of thing. I don't know. We're all in uncharted waters, Mayor, and all this stuff's new. But I do know the loosening of the requirements by the state is for economic reasons, understandably. At the same time, there could be potentially consequences that come along with that are going to happen because we loosen back up. And I just don't fall into that camp that certain, Lieutenant Governor of Texas just basically stated some people are expendable. I don't think people are expendable. And any age of person or underlying health risks, things like that. But there's certain places everybody's got to go, and that grocery store is one of them, and that big retail store is one of them. And so we're going to be putting people at risk if we take off this requirement for people wearing those masks inside the essential stores like that.
All right. Vice Mayor Perkins?
Nothing further, Mayor.
All right. Alderman Vaughn, anything further?
Man, I just feel like after we have worn the mask for a great amount of time, I just feel like if you're really concerned about somebody and you love mankind the way you should, I feel like the majority of the public going to wear the mask in there, because I've heard a lot of people. I'm still going to wear, whether y'all vote for it or not, I'm still going to wear my mask into the store because I care about people. I don't want to see nobody lose their life over there. And that's the way I feel about it, regardless of what. I'm still going to wear a mask in there because I'm concerned about somebody. I got underlying issues like back there, and I care about somebody. And when you go to seeing kids die, it's a whole different ballgame now. And so, and that really concerns me much. Either way it goes, I'm gonna be fine. Another one, is there any way that we can put these employees back to 40 hours in the park, or we gonna have to do it at our next board meeting?
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it at our next board meeting because it's a pay period thing.
Okay.
It messes with the pay period pretty bad. So we're gonna do it on the 19th when we come back. Yeah, we'll bring them back in.
But other than that, man.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So one of my concerns, and I think this is not certainly, we are all concerned about the people, but at some point, even if we were to reinstate them today, they're going to have to come off at some point in time. We can't wear them until the virus is gone. We just can't do it. So if you're wanting to go that route, be thinking about it. But the other concern I have, which is also a legitimate concern for the city, is any liability that we incur by saying, okay, Lowe's is essential, Kroger's essential, Val's is essential, Walmart is essential. Chris, I know this is a terrible thing to do to you. Can you kind of on the fly help me with where our exposure would be as it relates to that kind of determination?
Well, I think a business would argue that, even though they might not be a grocery store, they would somehow be similarly situated to a grocery store. And when we don't treat similarly situated businesses or entities similarly, well, then that opens up some exposure. While y'all were talking, I thought about two things, and sometimes I'm guilty of stating the obvious, and so y'all just shut me down here. But I'm looking at Section 4, and we do have that language in there asking the businesses, strongly encouraging the businesses to continue their mask requirement for customers and employees. And that language is purposeful. We really do want businesses to do that if they can. And secondly, of course, if Val's or Lowe's or anybody wants to continue their mask requirements as a personal business choice, the city's all for that. We're just not legally mandating it with Section 4.
Okay, thank you.
But that's the fear, is some kind of argument blowing back on us that we've arbitrarily drawn a line between two businesses that could be argued to be essential.
Okay, thank you. And that is my concern. And I strongly recommend that we put some sort of, personal pressure. I know I'm going to go talk to the manager of Lowe's, and I'm going to talk to the manager of Walmart and say, look, how about y'all instituting mask only hours, for example, or making sure that your employees provide are masked up, and that if you want your store to be comfortable for everybody, then require the public to come in and wear a mask. So that's kind of where I was, because at some point we're going to have to, even if we reinstitute them today, at some point that isn't 2 years out or until we get a vaccine, the mask requirements are going to have to go away. So it's a matter of when we do that and how we spread that or balance that risk, balance that concern, and move toward more of an assumption of the risk, if you will, which is going to be part of what we're doing as it relates to our parks too, y'all, because we cannot sanitize the playgrounds or the play sets, the play equipment. We can't keep up with restrooms and keeping them sanitized and safe. So at some point we're talking about an assumption of the risk, which also goes to not just the COVID issue, but it has to do with cost, because for those folks who are buying in grocery stores and not buying in restaurants, there's a 3% sitting there that's not coming our way that is used to support parks. So that's, while the sales of some may be up, there's some impact on us for other avenues of eating out and such that are not coming our way. So having said that, there is no motion on the table at this point.
Approval, please.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion to approve the resolution as read, the sixth resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? All right, I have a second from Alderman Vaughn. All right.
Mayor, before we vote, may I ask the council?
Of course.
Go ahead. Chris, on what grounds, and I know it's probably very broad, but in state court, a suit brought against the city would be one of economic damage or harm from a requirement by the city that would impede or would cause harm to that retail business and probably lower sales, not beyond whatever they're facing or experiencing right now with the pandemic. In federal court, what is it? Is it a violation of, usually when things head toward federal court, isn't that a violation of civil rights or something? And the reason, but lawyers take those things to federal court. Tell me kind of what.
There are numerous federal questions that could potentially apply in this type of circumstance. There could be an equal protection issue. There could be freedom of assembly, freedom of worship, takings. All of those things could be potentially brought in federal court.
State is more, it would be pretty much straight up, our head would be toward the economic harm or injury, correct?
That's right, but they would also be arguing economic damages on a federal claim, would be my best guess if any such claim is brought.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Vaughn.
As I hate to vote this way, but if we have a situation we finna cherry pick, and I don't want to be cherry picking. You can do this, you can do this, and that. And I don't think we should be doing that. I think we should be fair to everybody, and like you said, you're gonna go visit all those stores and ask them, to implement this procedure, and this policy. If that work, they'll be fine. But for we got to make a decision on who can wear a mask and who not wear a mask. I don't want to do that. I don't want to cherry pick.
Okay. All right. Thank you. all right. If there's no further discussion, we have a motion. We have a second. Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Sistrum.
I'd like to say that I've changed my mind 3 times while I was because I'm back where I started. But I think what we're about to see is the free market at work. And I think what we will see is that businesses that are responsive and understand that people are concerned about this will step up and have some accommodations for people who are uncomfortable coming into their shops. I can't think of much, if anything at all, that is for sale here in Starkville that I cannot find somewhere else, including online. And I do not want people shopping elsewhere. I do not want businesses going out of business here because they're losing their sales to online services because people are comfortable buying from home on their iPad and not comfortable going out into a local shop. So we're going to find out a lot about the economic reality of all of this, and it's not about masks. It's not about masks. It's about how businesses feel about their customers and how much they're going to be accommodating of their customers.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, if you would please answer yea or nay as I call your name. Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Sistrunk.
Yay.
Alderman Little's not with us. Alderman Walker.
Nay.
Alderman Beatty.
No.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Vice Mayor Perkins. I tell you what, Mayor, let me just say this very brief. I know we're on the roll call. Let me go ahead and answer on this. I'll go ahead and, Mayor, let me say very brief. I'm going to go ahead and support this. I think some great, I know the discussion is over. Give me very briefly. I'm going to go ahead and support the resolution. A lot of arguments been made this morning, been well taken. The attorney did a great explanation. And certainly, let me say lastly, and I didn't mean to discuss this now, but certainly, and I appreciate your leadership in encouraging the businesses to still have the requirement for the mask/face covering. So hopefully we as a community will continue to do everything to promote the health, safety, and welfare of all. And I mean to get into the discussion, Mayor, but I had to say that given the magnitude of this situation. Thank you, Mayor, and I vote yay.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I appreciate your explanation and your further remarks. And Alderman Vaughn.
Yeah.
All right. Then we have by a vote of 4-2, the motion carries. Resolution 6 is adopted. Mr. Latimer, you have those minutes?
I do.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Approve.
I have a motion from Alderman Vaughn to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second from Alderman Beatty. If you would answer yea or nay as I call your name. Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Sistrunk.
Yay.
Alderman Walker. It's hard to skip Alderman Little. I'm sorry. Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Beatty.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
And Alderman Vaughn.
Yeah.
All right, we are in adjournment. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and we will do our